Brian Joseph Myers is an American professional wrestler and promoter, better known by his ring name Curt Hawkins. He is best known for his time signed with WWE, and currently works for Global Force Wrestling. For the majority of his early career, Hawkins teamed with Zack Ryder, and they won several tag team championships together, including the WWE Tag Team Championship. He also held the TNA World Tag Team Championship with Trevor Lee in 2015. Professional wrestling career. Training and independent circuit. After being trained by Mikey Whipwreck, Myers made his debut in 2004, using his real name. He wrestled for the New York Wrestling Connection promotion. By 2005 he began regularly teaming with Brett Matthews, and the duo of Myers and Matthews went on to defeat the NYWC Tag Team Champions Dickie Rodds and Mason Rage by disqualification, for which titles do not change hands. At the next event on June 4 they won a rematch decisively to become Tag Team Champions. Later that month they were attacked by the Dead Presidents to set up a feud where they eventually lost their titles against them in July. On August 27. On September 23 they were entered into a three-way match with the champions, but Team Tremendous ended up with the belts. After continuing to win matches they re-earned a match against Team Tremendous and won the titles for the second time on January 25, 2006. They held the titles until they faced the BSXPRESS, who defeated them for the gold on March 26. World Wrestling Entertainment /WWE. Developmental territories. On February 24, 2006, Brian Myers signed a developmental contract with World Wrestling Entertainment. He was given the ring name Brian Majors and teamed up with his former tag team partner Brett Matthews, who was renamed Brett Majors, to form the tag team The Majors Brothers. Together they won the Deep South Wrestling DSW Tag Team Championship on 2 occasions. They later won the OVW Southern Tag Team Championship. La Familia. Tag Team Champion. The team was moved from the developmental league to the main roster, changing their last names from Majors to Major. The team worked on WWE's ECW brand. The team won their debut match, but failed to win any consecutive matches in either singles or tag team competition following their debut on the brand. They moved from ECW to SmackDown. On June 17, 2007, as the 8th pick in the 2007 supplemental draft. On SmackDown the team had only slightly more success than on the ECW brand, defeating the team of Chavo Guerrero and Jamie Noble. On November 9, 2007, they received a tag title match after winning a No. 1 Contenders Battle Royal, but could not defeat the champions, Montel Vontavious Porter and Matt Hardy. At Armageddon, the duo dressed up like Edge and interfered in the World Heavyweight Championship match, replacing Edge at several points along the match to help him win the title and thus turning heel for the first time in their WWE career. On December 21, 2007, the Major Brothers were revealed as acquaintances to Edge and his lover, SmackDown General Manager Vickie Guerrero. The Major Brothers were repackaged and renamed as Curt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, with Brian Major becoming Curt Hawkins, and Brett Major now Zack Ryder. Hawkins and Ryder were also, occasionally referred as the Rated or Entourage by commentators Michael Cole and John Bradshaw Layfield. Occasionally, the pair teamed with their mentor Edge and or their La Familia associate Chavo Guerrero on SmackDown on several occasions. At the Great American Bash on July 20, 2008, Hawkins and Ryder won the WWE Tag Team Championship from John Morrison and The Miz in a fatal four-way match which also featured Jesse and Festus and Finlay and Hornswoggle after Hawkins pinned Jesse. Their victory meant that they were the youngest tag team champions in WWE history. By SummerSlam in August, La Familia had begun to fracture, so Hawkins and Ryder went back to appearing on their own. On the September 26, 2008 airing of SmackDown, Hawkins and Ryder lost the titles to Carlito and Primo Cola Cubden in their first televised title defense. On April 15, 2009, Ryder was drafted back to the ECW brand as part of the 2009 supplemental draft, separating the team. Florida Championship Wrestling. Following the draft, Hawkins spent months on hiatus from television before voluntarily leaving the main roster and going to Florida Championship Wrestling for more training. He made his debut losing to Dawson Alexander. In the following weeks, Hawkins won an 8-man battle royal to become the #1 contender for Justin Angel's FCW Florida Heavyweight Championship, then lost the championship match. He joined a stable called the Dude Busters alongside Kalen Croft and Trent Barrett on November 1, 2009. In late November, Hawkins and Croft won the FCW Florida Tag Team Championship. While they were champions, Croft and Hawkins defended the title with Barrett via the Freebird rule. On January 14, 2010 at an FCW television taping, the Dude Busters lost the FCW Florida Tag Team Championship to the Fortunate Sons. The Gatecrashers, Hawkins returned to the SmackDown roster on May 4, 2010, forming a tag team with Vance Archer defeating Carson Rance and JT Talent in a dark match. They made their television debut as a team on the May 13 episode of WWE Superstars, defeating 2 local competitors. After the match, Hawkins stated that he and Archer had been given a 30-day contract to make an impact. The team made its SmackDown debut on the May 21 episode, winning another squash match. In an attempt to make an impact, the duo attacked Montel Vontavious Porter and Christian on consecutive episodes of SmackDown on June 4 and 11, which they followed up on by defeating both in a tag team match on June 18. The next week the duo was officially named the Gatecrashers. The pair also competed in a Battle Royal on the June 4 episode of SmackDown to replace The Undertaker in the World Heavyweight Championship Fatal 4-Way match at Fatal 4-Way. Hawkins was one of the 4 final participants in the match, but was eliminated by the eventual winner, Rey Mysterio. After their 30-day contract expired, they were signed to new long-term contracts in Storyline. The team came to an end on the October 7 airing of Superstars after a match between Archer and Chris Masters. Archer accidentally struck Hawkins outside the ring, after which the two argued and a distracted Archer lost the match. Afterwards, Hawkins assaulted Archer. Hawkins moved to singles competition the following week, defeating Trent Barrett. A rivalry then began between the two shortly after, with Barrett getting the win on the November 18 episode of Superstars. In a rematch the next week, Hawkins defeated Barrett, claiming Barrett's win the week before was a fluke. The feud ended with Barrett coming out on top when Barrett beat Hawkins on the December 9 episode of Superstars. Teaming with Tyler Rex. On April 26, Hawkins was drafted to the Raw brand as part of the 2011 supplemental draft. Hawkins and Ryder had a brief reunion in the May 19 episode of Superstars, where they teamed together in a losing effort against Kozlov and Santino Marella. After Hawkins beat JTG on the May 26 episode of Superstars, Hawkins returned on the September 8 episode of Superstars, teaming with Tyler Rex to defeat Percy Watson and Titus O'Neil. Hawkins and Rex then began appearing on the 5th season of NXT, by attacking the Usos from behind on the September 27 episode NXT. Over the next 2 weeks on NXT, Hawkins and Rex faced the Usos in tag team matches, with Hawkins and Rex winning the first match and the Usos winning the second match. From October, Hawkins, claiming a broken ankle, began to carry around a metal walking cane. However, when Hawkins' injury had healed sufficiently for him to wrestle, he still brought the cane with him to the ring. Hawkins and Rex then lost a non-title match to Air Boom on the December 22 episode of Superstars. Hawkins debuted on Raw on January 9, 2012, and was quickly defeated by a returning Brodus Clay. Hawkins and Rex feuded with Trent Barrett and Yoshitatsu from December 2011. Both teams regularly played pranks on each other, Tatsu being locked in a closet and Rex's hands being superglued onto an Xbox controller. The feud ended when Hawkins and Rex defeated Barrett and Tatsu on the January 18 episode of NXT. Hawkins and Rex then became NXT's troublemakers, tormenting NXT host Matt Striker on his lackluster career and how they should be main eventing NXT, even once going to the extent of assaulting him after a match. This forced Stryker to appoint William Regal as NXT's prime authority figure on the February 29 episode of NXT. Regal often employed harsh measures to keep Hawkins and Rex in line, including threatening suspensions for bad behavior and condemning them to janitorial duty. This caused them much frustration. On the March 21 episode of NXT Redemption, a storyline began in which Stryker was knocked out with chloroform by Johnny Curtis and Maxine, and then Stryker was kidnapped by unknown persons, later revealed to be Hawkins and Rex, who intended to blackmail Maxine into using her charms to get Regal to leave them alone. Unfortunately for Hawkins and Rex, Stryker was rescued by Derek Bateman and Caitlin. On the April 18 episode of NXT, the freed Stryker confronted Hawkins and Rex about the kidnapping, and Hawkins admitted the crime. As punishment, Regal put Hawkins and Rex in a match against each other, with Stryker as referee. The loser would be fired. Even though Rex won to supposedly save his job at the expense of Hawkins, Regal decided to fire Rex as well, sending the two troublemakers away from NXT. However, Regal could not keep the duo away from NXT for long, as they managed to convince villainous higher authority figure John Laurinaitis to rehire them as NXT security team on the May 9 episode of NXT. Hawkins and Rex continued to act as Laurinaitis lackeys, confiscating anti-Laurinaitis signs at Over the Limit and attacking John Cena on the May 21 episode of Raw. Hawkins and Rex's association with Laurinaitis ended after Laurinaitis lost his job at No Way Out. On the final episode of the 5th season of NXT on June 13, Hawkins and Rex defeated Percy Watson and Derek Bateman. Hawkins and Rex engaged in a one-sided feud with Ryback in July 2012. After both Hawkins and Rex lost singles matches to Ryback on SmackDown, Ryback defeated both of them in a handicap match at Money in the Bank. At Raw 1000, Hawkins and Rex, along with 4 other wrestlers, attempted to ambush Kane to make a statement, but a returning Undertaker interrupted the attack and the Brothers of Destruction disposed of Hawkins and Rex. They again lost to Ryback on the August 6 episode of Raw. After being told by SmackDown general manager Booker T to step it up, Hawkins and Rex debuted a stripper gimmick on the August 17 episode of SmackDown while squashing a jobber tag team. A week later, Rex asked for his release as he intended to retire from wrestling to spend more time with his family. He and WWE parted ways on August 21, thus ending the team. In October, Hawkins announced that he had undergone surgery for a torn posterior cruciate ligament and meniscus. Return to NXT. On the January 21, 2013 Raw, a short-haired Hawkins returned on television tapings in a show-closing brawl. He made his return match on the February 9 episode of Saturday Morning Slam, losing to Justin Gabriel. After that, Hawkins most commonly appeared on Superstars and NXT, where he lost all of his matches. On the May 8, 2014 episode of NXT, Hawkins competed a battle royal to determine a new number 1 contender to the NXT Championship, in which he was unsuccessful. On the May 22 episode of NXT, Hawkins faced Adrian Neville in a losing effort. On June 12, WWE announced that Hawkins had been released from his contract. Returned to the independent circuit. A day after his release from WWE, Myers wrestled at a Jersey Championship Wrestling event, teaming with Val Venis to defeat Danny DiMento and Eric Andretti. On June 22, Myers was defeated by AR Fox at a Beyond Wrestling event. On August 29, Myers made his debut for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, losing to AJ Styles in the first round of the 2014 Battle of Los Angeles. In autumn, he reunited with his former WWE partner Tyler Rex. The pair tagged together as part of Pro Wrestling Syndicate, picking up a win in October against Kevin Matthews and Lance Hoyt. In November, they announced their new name, the Heat Seekers. Global Force Wrestling. On July 9, 2015, Myers was announced as part of the roster of the Global Force Wrestling promotion. Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. Myers made his Total Nonstop Action Wrestling debut on the July 27, 2015 episode of Impact Wrestling, where he teamed with Trevor Lee and lost to the Wolves on the September 2, 2015 edition of Impact Wrestling. Myers and Lee defeated the Wolves in a rematch to win the TNA World Tag Team Championship. The next week on the September 9, 2015 edition of Impact Wrestling, they lost the title back to the Wolves, ending their reign for only one day. On the September 16 edition of Impact Wrestling, Team GFW faced Team TNA in a lethal lockdown match where they lost. At Bound for Glory, he and Trevor Lee had a rematch for the TNA World Tag Team Championship against the Wolves but failed to win the titles. In other media, Hawkins' first venture into YouTube came in the form of a short-lived YouTube series called Call-In Spots with Curt Hawkins, which only lasted 2 episodes. His first video has since been deleted but has kept up his second video where he thanks Edge for giving him his first opportunity in WWE, which was being part of La Familia, and for being a friend and mentor. Hawkins also appeared in Zack Ryder's YouTube series, Z. True Long Island Story. After sporadically appearing on the show, he has now become a regular on the show. Hawkins and Rex have appeared on the show together also. One of Hawkins' more memorable segments came after Zack Ryder started to use a cane on his show. Scott Stanford, another regular on the show, has came up to Hawkins and Rex saying that they are using the Broski cane. This has annoyed the pair on every occasion, stating that Hawkins used a cane first. Hawkins and Rex created an animated YouTube series called Midcard Mafia in 2011, but the show upset WWE management, so Hawkins and Rex cancelled the series and removed the uploaded shows. Hawkins also appeared in multiple episodes of WWE Inbox, a show where superstars and divas answer questions submitted by fans on Twitter. On episode 5 of Santino Marella's Foreign Exchange, Marella and Yoshitatsu gave him their spare change after seeing him wearing his Change for NXT shirt. Hawkins has also made several appearances on the YouTube channel Silly Super Pop as MJ Appleballs. He was a friend of Grimm's and portrayed a villain in 2015. Personal life. While he was inactive in WWE, in 2013, Myers and Pat Buck opened a wrestling school in Hicksville, New York, Create a Pro Wrestling Academy. Myers married his longtime girlfriend, Lizzie Karch, on October 9, 2015. In wrestling, finishing moves: heat-seeking elbow, laugh riot, adopted from Edge, taste of pain. Signature moves: nzwigiri, multiple suplex variations, belly to belly, one night stand, snap. Sliding out of the ring, tripping an opponent, rebounding against the ropes, upside down frown, adopted from Norman Smiley. With Zack Ryder, double team finishing moves: double lifting DDT, Euro 2008. Heat stroke / Long Island Express, reverse STO / Russian leg sweep combination. Double team signature moves: double hip toss, sometimes preceded by a double leapfrog or dropped into a blackbreaker, double spear, Euro 2008. Nicknames: The Party Starter. Entrance themes: What I Want by Daughtry, Gasoline Upcharge by Chris Wirtz and Daniel Holter, In the Middle of It Now by Disciple, Up All Night by Hinder. Championships and accomplishments: Alpha One Wrestling, A1 Alpha Male Championship. Deep South Wrestling, DSW Tag Team Championship, a Euro with Brett Majors. 5 Borough Wrestling, FBW Heavyweight Championship. Florida Championship Wrestling, FCW Florida Tag Team Championship, won, a Euro with Keon Croft and Trent Barretta. Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW Southern Tag Team Championship, a Euro with Brett Majors. New York Wrestling Connection, NYWC Tag Team Championship, a Euro with Brett Matthews. Pro Wrestling Illustrated, PWI ranked Hawkins 141 of the top 500 singles wrestlers in the PWI 500 in 2008. Pro Wrestling Syndicate, PWS Television Championship. Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, TNA World Tag Team Championship, a Euro with Trevor Lee. World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE Tag Team Championship, a Euro with Zack Ryder. See also. References. External links: Curt Hawkins' profile on WWE.com, Curt Hawkins on Twitter.